Two councils, Birmingham and Bromley, have been named and shamed by ITV News and Crisis, the housing charity, for turning away families with children from homelessness services, forcing families with children as young as 3 and 4 in this report to sleep on the streets or to sleep rough in their cars, because the council has turned them away because the council didn't consider themselves responsible for funding the duty to house people who are homeless. How on earth have we got here, and what has council tax got to do with it? Well, let me tell you. So the way in which councils are funded is complex, but in this case, we need to know a couple of things. One is that when housing benefit is paid out by a council, so let's say an older person needs support with their rent, they apply for housing benefit, not universal credit because they're an older person. The council pays out the housing benefit. Now, the council gets all of that money back. They get the housing benefit back from the DWP, from central government. It's called subsidy. Now, so they're subsidising it and the council will get all of the money back. Now, not when it comes to temporary accommodation. So when it comes to temporary accommodation, universal credit doesn't pay the rent side of it for homelessness services. The council does and housing benefit does. But the council doesn't get all of the housing benefit back that they pay out for temporary accommodation. In fact, they get 90% of the council gets 90% of the local housing allowance rate back as it was in 2011. And I mean, charities campaign regularly to unfreeze local housing allowance rates and to get them to catch up. Even 2026 rates don't meet rent levels locally anywhere. But when it comes to temporary accommodation, this is even worse. So 90% of the local housing allowance rate, let's say it's just down here, not really scientific, but it's down here. Temporary accommodation costs up here. Now, the gap between temporary accommodation costs and 90% of the LHA rate, as it was in 2011, is borne by the council. The council pays the difference between what the government subsidises through this little bit and the rest of it. And housing benefit paid for temporary accommodation, for bed and breakfast accommodation, for emergency accommodation is high. So higher than normal rents. So the council is paying out of pocket through their general fund, which is another way of talking, like the council tax pot. Councils are paying out of their general fund to fund temporary accommodation. Now, when this has been the case for a long time, but temporary accommodation and homelessness has increased in extraordinary amounts since the beginning of austerity, and we now have more families and more children in temporary accommodation than ever before. 170,000 plus children live in temporary accommodation, bed and breakfast accommodation, because of the housing crisis. So the council is picking up the difference between what the government will subsidise and what is being charged at temporary accommodation rates. Now, because this is a couple of £1 billion a year coming out of council funding as a result of temporary accommodation, and in some parts of the country it hits a lot worse. So city councils, big cities, Manchester, Liverpool, Birmingham, and London councils in particular, where we see the housing crisis really sort of concentrate, they're paying even more. Now, because of the way we fund councils, and because of the way, well, actually, we should start saying because of the way we don't fund councils, because of the lack of council funding, councils have become like dragons sitting on a pile of gold, protecting their funds at all costs. Now, that has led to a scarcity mindset in councils, and the policy decision making that they're producing is massively impacted by this scarcity mindset. And it is a money first policy process, which is dreadful. But this money first scarcity mindset policy making culture is filtering down to frontline services, and we're getting people getting turned away, children turned away from homelessness services despite knowing that they will sleep rough on the streets, because councils are not denying that they need housing, they're denying that they need to pay for that housing. They're saying it's another council's responsibility. Councils are constantly pitted against each other when it comes to these services. Who foots the bill is an enormous source of tension, because of the way we fund council services, because of council tax, because it's the council tax fund, the general fund, that is picking up this gap between what the government will pay councils to do this and what temporary accommodation is charging. It's billions. So when we talk about sort of the impact of austerity, this is one of those impacts. This is frontline decision making. I mean, this is akin with what Hannah Arendt would call the banality of evil, turning families away with children, turning anybody away. Forget the fact that they're children. I mean, it's doubly so that they're children, but turning anybody away because of funding decisions and saying we're not responsible, they are, therefore nothing we can do, is just, it's abhorrent. It's absolutely abhorrent, and it's becoming more and more normalized. People don't turn away families with children in a decision-making culture where that would be seen as it is, which is utterly disgusting. They do it in decision-making cultures where they have normalized extraordinarily difficult decisions like this because of funding, because of pressures from above, because of funding pressures. Every layer of management to team leader to frontline is under such enormous pressure to save money and to not spend money that they don't have, that they're turning away children knowing that they will sleep on the fucking streets. Council tax got to go. We need better policy. Something has got to change, because this decision doesn't get made in isolation. These families are not being turned away as a one-off. This is not something that is so shocking to these councils. This is the end result of an extraordinary period in local government funding. And I could rant about this all day. I could weep for these families. It's got to go. Gotta go. Need better funding. Need better policy. Fuck me. Dear me.